Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Savage NASCAR Podcast, the first episode of the 2021 season, episode total number 8. And today, I have a very special guest with us, Nick Ikkolini. He runs NascarNick2488 on Instagram and YouTube. Thank you for joining us today. How's it going, man?
Everything's going good, and I really appreciate you letting me join your podcast for this episode. It really means a lot to me.
You're welcome, and thanks for coming on. Now, we have a lot of topics to get into, but first, I have to ask you, what got you into the sport of NASCAR, or where did you find your passion in the sport?
Well, it wasn't where I found out about NASCAR. It's who got me into NASCAR. And the person that got me into NASCAR was Dale Earnhardt Sr. I first found out about Dale Earnhardt when I was only in 5th grade, when I was 10 years old, back in 2010, when I saw a binder at a flea market with his picture on it. And I asked the guy who was selling it, who is this guy? And he told me his name was Dale Earnhardt, one of the best NASCAR drivers of all time. And I went home after he told me that, and I went on YouTube, and I watched video about Dale. And after seeing all the videos of him racing, him winning, I said, this guy was one hell of a racer. I later found out that he did unfortunately pass away in a racing accident in 2001. And when I found out that the Daytona 500 was coming up in 2011, it was the 10th year anniversary of losing Dale, I decided maybe I'll give NASCAR a chance for once. So I watched Daytona 500. I raced 3 fingers up on lap 3 to honor Dale Earnhardt. And here I am 10 years later. I know almost everything there is about NASCAR. I make Custom Diecast as a little side hobby. And once lap 3 comes this year at the Daytona 500, I'll be holding up 3 fingers again. And pretty much I owe everything to Dale Earnhardt. Godspeed, Dale. Thank you so much.
Yeah, February the 18th will be the 20th anniversary of Dale Earnhardt Sr.'s passing, and it definitely will be a sad day for a lot of people and pretty much everyone in NASCAR. And you know, it's crazy how time flies. It feels like it was just yesterday, and I don't remember that day because I was less than, like a month old, or I was actually a month and 4 days old at the time, and the anniversary will definitely be a sad day for all. You've been on YouTube now for 10 years. You just reached 1K subs. We'll get more into that later, and the same thing with your Custom Diecast account. And now I want to ask you, who's your favorite driver?
Well, for me, with favorite drivers, I have a whole mixture. For me, for former drivers, it's a tie between Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt Jr. And honestly, it's for a stupid reason. It's honestly from when I saw the movie Cars in 2006. I honestly jumped on a bandwagon, but then after realizing who they were, what their careers were like, I realized I did make a good decision about my favorite driver. And I would say, of all time, my favorite driver would be Dale Earnhardt Jr., just because he's good with his fans, he's very knowledgeable at racing, and he's just a class act guy. He's very respectful, and that's what I really like out of drivers. But currently, since Dale retired, my new favorite current driver has to be Darrell Wallace Jr. or Bubba Wallace, and I know I'm going to get a lot of backlash for that. But I've liked Bubba ever since he was in the K&N series. Well, now the ARCA East series. I just like Bubba because he's very respectful. He's very nice to his fans, just like Dale Jr., and he just seems like he's a pretty chill guy. And honestly, I hope I get a chance to meet him someday.
I definitely like Richard Petty as well, and Dale Earnhardt Jr. I didn't like Dale Earnhardt Jr. as much as a couple other drivers that are on my favorite driver list, but Richard Petty's definitely up there, and there's nothing wrong with liking Bubba Wallace, and he definitely gets too much hate. And, maybe we'll see him in victory lane one day. With the new team, I don't think that they're going to be very successful at first. But we'll see, and I'd love to meet Bubba Wallace as well. Now, you have a huge knowledge in the sport, and definitely probably more than me. You definitely proved it on Instagram Live. A couple months ago, me and Nick went live on Instagram, and he named every single Daytona 500 winner in order, and it was really impressive. And I want to ask you, how much time and how much research do you usually do for your videos, and to basically get the amount of knowledge that you have now in the sport of NASCAR?
Well, making my videos, it's kind of tough for me to do sometimes because, I mean, I work a full-time job. I work 5 of the 7 days a week, and I work 8-hour shifts those 5 days. And plus my custom diecast business that I do, it takes a lot of time out of my schedule. So it usually takes me about a month, maybe half a month, to even make a video like you guys see on my YouTube pages, like I did with Bill Rexford and Marty Robbins and stuff like that. And usually, like, the time it takes me to get the information and, like, write down everything and then record and edit everything, it takes me about a half a month to a month. Getting all the stats down that I need for each video, it takes me about maybe 3 days to a week. And then I have to find, like, footage that matches up with the info, some pictures maybe, and then editing that. And editing takes about maybe a full week just because of my schedule at home. Other than that, like I said, it takes me about half a month to a month to do.
That's definitely true. Videos do take a while, and a lot of people don't understand or appreciate how much, work goes into some of these videos. And I mean, your channel has had, a lot of views. I mean, hundreds upon thousands of views on your videos, and you just now hit 1K. And I've watched your channel for now about like 3 years, and I've definitely enjoyed your content, and so do a lot of other people. And I think your channel definitely should have way more subscribers. And now, one thing I kind of also want to ask you about your channel, what is your favorite video that you ever made, or what is your favorite type of videos that you've made on your channel?
Well, when it comes to a video series on my channel, I gotta say my favorite has to be my Final Start series, where it's like maybe like a short video, like maybe 2 to 5 minutes long, of a driver's or a team's final start in racing, like in NASCAR. But when it comes to like my favorite video on my channel, it probably has to be my video called the 60, the story of Bill Rexford, NASCAR's Forgotten Champion. That video just means a lot to me because it was the first voiceover video that I ever made, and I made it to basically honor and support the legacy of Bill Rexford, who was New York's only NASCAR Cup champion. And me as a New York, that means a lot, honestly, because I kind of see Bill Rexford as an inspiration to me. I mean, yes, he passed away back in '94, but I just see him as a big inspiration. And then maybe about 6 months, I'm going to say, after I uploaded that video, I got a message here on my Instagram from a guy who told me he was extremely touched by the video, that it made him feel very happy, and he actually turned out to be the grandson of Bill Rexford. And that really made me happy that a NASCAR champion's family member reached out to me and actually said one of my videos was great. And that really made me happy. Now we're working together to get his grandfather noticed, because out of every NASCAR champion, besides Matt Kenseth, that isn't retired or is retired basically, Bill Rexford is the only NASCAR champion to not be nominated or inducted into the NASCAR Hall of Fame. And we're working to try and get Bill Rexford a nomination just to get into the Hall of Fame. Like, he doesn't have to be inducted, just to get nominated. Because like I said, besides Matt Kenseth, Bill Rexford is the only retired and former NASCAR champion to not be nominated.
I definitely have to agree with you. Those videos are definitely bangers, and I think they definitely were the best on your channel, and that's pretty awesome what you're doing for the Rexford family. And that video about Rexford was definitely great, and it's really cool to see, that, I mean, even for me, it's really cool to see when people are inspired or, are basically impacted by videos that were made. And, it's really cool what you and him are doing, trying to definitely get him inducted to the Hall of Fame. And, he deserves it. I mean, he's a champion in the sport. And, I mean, that's really awesome of you. Rexford was definitely inspirational. And now I kind of want to ask you about NASCAR history. What is your favorite races ever in NASCAR? I know I have some in my list, and you probably have seen them on my top 100 NASCAR best NASCAR Cup races of all time. But I just want to get your opinion on what your favorite NASCAR races of all time were.
For me, being a Dale Earnhardt Jr. fan, I would say my earliest favorite race was probably the 2012 Quicken Loans 400 at Michigan, where Jr. snapped that winless streak. That was the first time I ever saw Dale Earnhardt Jr. win a race. And I remember that day I was sitting on my couch with my dad, Father's Day weekend, and I was standing on my couch, jumping, cheering for joy. Never thought I would see that day come. But then when 2014 came around, the Daytona 500, Dale Earnhardt Jr. leading the field coming out of turn 4, while the field behind him turned into nothingness and just wrecked, holding off Denny Hamlin and winning his second Daytona 500. Seeing my favorite driver win the Daytona 500. Honestly, I'd say my favorite race probably has to be the 2018 Daytona 500. I mean, most people would say that race is controversial because of what happened at the finish, but for me, I was there. I was sitting in the 5th row behind the start-finish line, and just seeing that number 3 car coming out of turn 4, holding off the 43, and just winning the Daytona 500. 20 years since Dale Earnhardt Sr. won it, and on the anniversary of Dale Earnhardt Sr.'s passing. And just the number and the car that got me into NASCAR, that helped me become a NASCAR fan, the number 3, seeing that win in person, it just brought a tear to my eye. And to be honest, I was crying. I was actually crying in the grandstands.
Those were definitely great NASCAR moments, and I know this may bring back some bad memories, but my first NASCAR race was actually the 2011 Coca-Cola 600, where Dale Earnhardt Jr. actually ran out of gas on the final lap, and Kevin Harvick won. But, I mean, for me, a couple of my favorites in particular, the 1979 Daytona 500, the 1992 Hooters 500 at Atlanta, 2007 Daytona 500, 2007 Coca-Cola 600. I could go on and on. Speaking of great races, I kind of wanted to get your opinion on what's your favorite Daytona 500s, or your opinion on the greatest Daytona 500 of all time.
Probably the greatest Daytona 500 in history would probably be 1979. Because, if it wasn't for Ken Squire, if it wasn't for CBS, NASCAR wouldn't even be on TV today, probably, if it wasn't for those two guys. Or, well, if it wasn't for Ken Squire and for CBS.
I agree with you 100%. That race was definitely the greatest Daytona 500 in history, and arguably the best NASCAR race of all time. And now, I thought of this question I meant to ask you earlier. Can you tell me the meaning behind your YouTube channel name, NascarNick2488? I was just wondering about the numbers.
Well, the NASCAR Nick part in my YouTube name it comes from my dad's friend, because whenever he would come over, he would say, "Hey, there's NASCAR Nick, how you doing?" Like that. And basically, it kind of fits right as a nickname. NASCAR Nick, it fits well. But the 2488, the 24 stands for Jeff Gordon. Jeff Gordon's another one of my favorite drivers. And I came up with the channel name back in 2015, 2016 when he was retiring. And then the 88 is obviously for Dale Earnhardt Jr.
Nice. And now I want to ask you about your Custom Diecast account. Ikkolini Custom Diecast currently at 1,738 followers. Can you tell me about how you make your custom diecast, or what type of process goes in behind that artwork? I guess they put it in a way. I don't know if it's either artwork, but whatever.
Well, the work I put into my custom diecast it's a lot of work, to be honest. I gotta take the body apart, I gotta take the whole diecast apart, strip the paint off of it until it's completely clean. Then I have to basically spray paint or just hand paint the car to the exact color that I want. And then I let that dry, and while I let the paint dry, I print out the decals that I need. And to make sure that the decals are bonded together, that way no ink runs off of it when I dip it in the water, I spray a little bit of clear coat on it. And after I let that dry, I apply it to the car. After I apply all the decals to the car, I basically clear coat the car to make it shiny and finished. And after all that, I just put it together and it's complete.
Now we gotta talk about this weekend's races. Yes, it's the Daytona 500 weekend, and I'm very excited. And before we talk about that, though, I meant to ask you, what was your thoughts on the Busch Clash from Tuesday night? The date of this recording is on Wednesday, so it happened last night. So what was your thoughts?
My thoughts on the Busch Clash were, well, when the start of the race came, I didn't really think it was, worth it. But as the race progressed, I thought it was actually, kind of exciting. And then when it came close to the finish, seeing Elliott and Blaney going at it for the win, and Elliott moving up through the field with Blaney, I thought that was pretty exciting. I'm a sucker for road courses too. I love road course racing, so I thought it was a really good race.
Same, I definitely have to agree with you. I thought it was a great success, and it was definitely better than the July road course race, except for Kyle Busch winning. But anyways, now let's move on to the Truck Series, and the race last year was really good, a very, very close finish, and I think this one will be a great race as well. My pick to win is Sheldon Creed. Could you give us your predictions on the race and who you think's going to win?
Well, I think that with all the young talent that's coming in, all the young racers that are going to be in the Truck Series race this year, I think it's going to be a bit of a wreck fest. There's going to be a lot of cautions, a lot of crashes. I feel like there's going to be some tempers flaring with all the young people. And who knows, maybe we could see a first-time winner, maybe it'd be a repeat winner, but who knows? My picks, if he even qualifies, I hope my main pick is Joe Nemechek. And I'm also picking Dawson Cram. But in general, maybe I'll pick Stuart Friesen or Johnny Sauter.
Now for the Xfinity Series, I'm actually going to take a risk and go with Brandon Jones. What about you?
Well, I don't think the Xfinity race is going to be all that worth watching. I feel like it's going to be a lot of single-file racing, not going to be a lot of cautions, besides whatever the stage brings out. But I just feel like it's just going to be a pretty snooze fest type of race, and I feel like it might just be a repeat winner, probably one of the Junior Motorsports guys or maybe Joe Gibbs Racing guy. But who knows? You gotta wait until Saturday to see who wins that one.
I have to agree with you regarding the train racing. Now, let's talk about the main event, the Great American Race. Who you picking?
I just hope we have a good Daytona 500 this year. One that doesn't have a lot of crashes, one that doesn't end at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, whatever. I always like seeing the Daytona 500 end when there's still sunlight, not when it's under the lights, because I feel like the Daytona 500 is a daytime race and late afternoon race, not a race that should end under the lights. With the race always ending under the lights, I feel like that just brings out more crashes and more people getting anxious. And that's kind of what led up to Ryan Newman's crash last year. I hope we do not have another crash like that. But who knows? Maybe Denny Hamlin can win 3 in a row. Or maybe it'll be a first-time winner. Maybe it'll be a first-time Daytona 500 winner. I'm just hoping that it'll be one of those. Nothing like last year, though.
Same, dude. I agree with all those points. And, I've always been saying, for the last couple of years, that NASCAR needs to start the races earlier instead of 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And, we've seen that because they've done that. There's been a lot of rain delays. But for me, I have to go with William Byron. I know it's a controversial pick, but he's done so good on restrictor plate tracks the last couple of years, and he's came close to winning a couple of times, and I feel like that he'll get the job done on Sunday, even though I don't really like his new paint scheme. But now, as we are wrapping up the episode here today, I have one last final question, and this is one that I'm interested in because I do not know. I have no clue. What is your favorite NASCAR track?
Well, to be honest, with favorite tracks, I gotta say I have 2 of them. My first favorite track has gotta be Daytona. Not just because of, the high speeds and just the 500 and stuff. Daytona means a lot to me for the fact that my grandparents, before they passed away, used to live about 5-10 minutes down the road from Daytona Beach. Well, from the racetrack. They lived in Daytona Beach. And usually whenever I would go see them, or I only visited them in my lifetime maybe 4 or 5 times. But every time I would visit them, I always went past the racetrack, and it's just, I always loved driving past it, even before I was a NASCAR fan. And it's just, seeing that track is just, it makes me think of my grandparents. I miss them a lot. I honestly miss them a lot, and it's just, it makes me feel closer to them. But my true favorite track has got to be Watkins Glen. It's my home track. How can you not like your own home track? And it's exciting with all the battles that go on every single year, like Elliott and Truex the last couple of years, or just anything that happens, like Marcus Ambrose, Brad Keselowski, the crashes that happen. It's insane. It's just, you never know what's going to happen there. I also love road courses too. I just hope Watkins Glen stays on the schedule for years to come, and I would love to see a race there someday.
I know I've said this a lot already, but same as me. I mean, Daytona is definitely one of my favorites. I'm going to win in 2019. That was an amazing experience. And my second favorite track is my hometown track, Charlotte Motor Speedway. And as I mentioned earlier, my first race there was in 2011, and I've been to the Roval in 2019. Well, this pretty much wraps up the episode. I'd like to thank you, Nick, again for joining us today. And do you have any closing thoughts?
No, thank you for letting me join. I had a lot of fun doing this. I mean, not a lot of people ask me to join podcasts or live streams and stuff like that. So I had a lot of fun doing this, and I hope I get to do more sometime down the road.
100%. And if you haven't yet, go sub to Nick on YouTube, NascarNick2488, and the same, go follow him on Instagram on his personal and his Custom Diecast account. Well, this has been a wrap. We've reached the checkered flag, and we'll catch you next time. Have a great weekend, everybody.